Eager eyes in the UK are watching to see if Grenada will soon join the list of Caribbean countries willing to remove Queen Elizabeth II as the country's head of state. This question was put to Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell during a recent interview with BBC's Newsday. He said while this is surely not a time for constitutional reform in Grenada, he sees no reason for having a ceremonial head of state and an elected head of state at the same time.
To be frank, Grenada has had two constitutional referendums in recent times, both of which failed spectacularly. And so I'm not so sure that immediately pursuing such a third constitutional reform at this immediate time makes sense. I can say to you that certainly philosophically, I see no reason for having a ceremonial head of state and an elected head of state. It's really an expensive and, in my view, pointless and cumbersome governance structure for a small island. I'm more interested in constitutional reform, in my view, that makes the government more efficient, less costly, and more responsive to our citizens.
Prime Minister Mitchell says his focus for Grenada at this time, as a small country, is to let the people's voice be heard on other issues.
We want our voice to say that we too deserve to be economically developed. We too deserve to have a high standard of living. And we too deserve not a figment, but a real opportunity to determine our destiny. And I think too often, even now, a lot of the attitudes towards small island developing states by much larger countries smacks of a colonial mentality.
The Grenadian leader also pointed to some of the challenges facing small island developing states. He says with the little resources smaller countries have, it is difficult for countries such as Grenada to thrive due to some international policies.
The truth is that small islands, we don't have the resources, we don't have the size, we don't have the economies of scale that very powerful countries have. And so oftentimes we have to resort to creative ways to grow our economy and to make sure citizens have a high standard of living. But many of the policies pursued by the developed world make it extremely difficult for our banking system, restrictions on travel in terms of visa requirements to enter larger countries makes it very difficult oftentimes for smaller countries to be able to survive, much less compete. And what that means is if it leads to poverty and extreme cases of poverty in the small islands, it destabilizes the society.
For GBN News, I'm Rena Pierre-Thomas reporting.